Bit of bad news, disappointing news. Keyshawn Bryant will be suspended for the first 5 games of the season due to violation of athletic department policy. And so he's with us every day. He practices. He's in great spirits. And you know, he's my guy. And unfortunately, it's something that that I just had to announce today. So so everyone's aware. With that said, extremely excited. I think we've had tremendous workouts and practices since the Benedict game. The great thing about having so many new guys is that every time you take the court, there's so much information to help them learn. The bad thing of having so many new guys is that as soon as you correct one problem and you don't spend time on other things, then they don't comprehend the other things as clearly. So you're always trying to figure out how to invest as much time as possible on the things that are needed to improve your team. But they've been great. I got no complaints whatsoever with this team. Their competitiveness, their attention to detail. We have some immaturity, but that's, I don't say immaturity is a negative. We just, when I use the word immature, I'm not just talking about like we got guys that come in here and kick balls into the stands and lose their emotions. They just, you know, they're new to what we do. So understanding when it's time to laugh and when it's time to demand, it's just a little bit new for everybody because I'm different than other coaches, just like other coaches are different than me. It's we're all trying to figure each other out. But they've been great, and I'm excited, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun this season.
Dave and then John.
Frank, I asked you a couple of weeks ago about your defense being in and being installed. Now that you're on the cusp of the season, about where is it? Do you feel all the guys have a pretty good grasp of what you want to do out there?
Yeah, I think it's in a lot better place than I expected it to be this early in the year. We still, our bigs they're not struggling. We've addressed it the last couple days in practice, and it gets back to with so many new guys. There's a lot of teaching going on, and our ball screen defense was not very good in the Benedict game, but we didn't spend a lot of time on ball screen defense before then. We have the last couple days, and we will again today. There's an understanding of it. It's just a repetition thing with them. But as far as our initial defensive hit, guys being where they belong, I'm really happy with that. When you guard the basketball, I use a phrase in practice and in the huddle all the time. You know, some people call it pressure the ball. I call it fight the ball. You can't. It's just like a wrestling match. Sometimes you get put on your back. Well, you can't lay there. You got to get off your back. And same thing. You're guarding the ball. That guy goes at you, and just because maybe he beats you on the first step, you can't just accept it. You got to fight and fight and fight. That's what gives your help defense a chance. And we got James Reese and Devin Carter are elite on-ball defenders. Eric Stevenson fights the ball. We've got different guys that can really get after. Jacoby Wright's going to be a really good on-ball defender. We've got different guys that are pretty darn good at fighting that ball. So we just got to keep working at it.
John.
Two quick things. First, on Keyshawn, was that something that happened recently, or was that over the summer or early in the fall and just announced now?
Yeah, no, John. I'm not going to expand too much on that. I got too much respect for Key to give out too many details of his situation. This is not something I found out of yesterday. He has battled the knee in preseason. I didn't mislead anyone on that. I didn't play him against. He could have played against Benedict. I didn't play him because of his knee. His knee's in a good place right now, but this is just a decision that had to be made.
And having tape against another opponent last week, coming off of Benedict, how does that help you all going into the start of the season and just making some adjustments and correcting things?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's because you make adjustments in practice, but for the most part, you're defending how like we play, or offensively, we're trying to attack defense how we play. For the most part, we make adjustments in practice because we have to try and prepare our teams. But there's nothing that gets you better at improving what you do than playing your strategies against other people. You get that on tape and you show it, and because other people run their system better than we can run other people's system. So it's been real good. The Wake Forest scrimmage, having that on film, really helped us. The Benedict scrimmage exhibition game, having that on film has really helped us. And we've got guys that they connect A and B. Like when you show them stuff, they see it, and they've had unbelievable pride in trying to learn things as fast as possible. So we've been able to make progress every time we show them stuff on film.
Colin and then Mike.
Frank, obviously you have a way your teams like to play in terms of physicality, the mentality y'all play with so many new guys. Where do you feel like that identity is right now as you sit 24 hours before your first game?
I think it's in a good place. One of the messages I shared with our team after Saturday's practice was you got to bring your lunch pail every day right now. Because if you go one day and you take it for granted and you don't come in with that mindset that you just asked me about, someone else is going to take your job. And that's the great thing about depth as a coach. As coaches, we want competition in practice. We want depth. And then when you have that, then we've got to manage the team and comprehend that not all 15, 16 guys are going to play. You need all hands on deck. I mean, what better university to have that slogan at than here, with all the mysterious stuff that always goes on around here, especially with my teams. But in reality, the way we play when we're good, 10 guys are going to play. And so I've got to manage the guys that aren't getting in there as much as they want to play. But we can't be any good without that competition in practice. And we've got a bunch of guys that I feel pretty comfortable in putting on the court right now.
Frank, to make a math analogy, it seems like with your defenses over the years, it's something that you have to gradually continue to learn, right? You can't do multiplication until you know how to do 2 plus 2. Going back to looking at last year, how much does that help, though, in terms of being able to get your defense going? Because I think some people don't understand how difficult it is with your defense and why that is.
It's to play the way that our teams have played for 8 of my 9 years here. It takes unbelievable amount of energy. And it takes depth. It's hard to play that way. If you look back to Sindarius's, and what year was that? Ty Johnson broke his foot, and we were down to Sindarius and Dwayne were only 2 guards. That was his freshman year, right?
13, 14.
Yeah. You go back to that year, I had to adjust midstream because we just didn't have the depth we needed yet. And I think it was at Texas A&M, the second or third conference game of the year, Ty Johnson breaks his foot. So now we're down to Sindarius and Dwayne the rest of the year. We couldn't really play that way the rest of the season. You can't expect players to play at a top 10 pace offensively and then defend with the strategies that we try to implement. But outside of that year and obviously last year, because we just didn't have the practice time, the way we play is taxing. It's not easy, and you need repetition because of the speed that we create. And we need depth, and we've got those 2 things this year. Knock on wood, we can keep practicing and not get shut down, and I think we'll be okay from that standpoint. I hope so. I mean, I almost said something sarcastically funny that would have gotten me in trouble nationally, but caught myself 8 years ago. I would have said something really funny. Now I'm kind of careful, but I'll keep that one from my house. But I've got a lot of confidence that this team's depth, personality, and our ability to stay on the court and practice, that we can create the disciplines, the speed, the consistencies in practice that we need to be able to play that way in games.
Frank, Corey Diaz with USA Today and the Greenville News. What you had hoped to accomplish through the first 5 games, now with the absence of Keyshawn, does that alter, change what you guys had hoped to accomplish in those first handful of games?
He's our leading scorer, leading rebounder, last year's team, and he's obviously a guy that's been here for 3 years. The positive to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? To learn how to play without him is that he battled that knee in preseason. So we went, I want to say it was 2 weeks where he didn't practice. So we had to get guys out there to compete in practice. Sometimes we make this, like I told you guys last year, every decision I made just didn't work. One of the decisions I made in recruiting last spring was James Reese had committed to me. I really didn't need another wing guard. And then Eric Stevenson called Chuck Martin. And Chuck called me, and I sat in that apartment in Miami where I was at the time, and I digested, like, do I bring another older guard in here? I don't know, Jermaine, Keyshawn, the James Reese, Chico Carter, Devin Carter, Jacoby. I was like, I don't think I need another guard in here. I don't think I need another perimeter guy. But I slept on it. I woke up the next day, and I called Chuck. I was hoping he'd convince me to make the call, and he did, and I made the call. And so we took Eric, even though James was committed, and I told myself after last year where we were down bodies all the time, I'd rather have too many and then manage it. But then when Keyshawn went down with the knee situation, we, luckily we had an extra older guard in there that can take on those minutes. So we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Kim.
You just probably won't see as many highlight dunks, but we'll be fine.
Hey, Frank, I guess kind of going off the highlight dunk thing, I know the focus of your teams are always defense, but offensively, after you've kind of gone through a whole preseason, what would you say the identity of this team is right now, and what's been the process of finding that identity with all the new faces?
Funny, you asked me a question. I spoke to some fraternities last night, and one of the fraternities, one of the students in there asked me a very similar question. And the words that came out, fast and furious. And not to use a play on words from the movie or the series, whatever you call the 15 different movies that have been made with those titles, but that's how we play really fast and we play furious. We got guys that are, James Reese is ultra competitive, Jermaine's ultra competitive, Eric Stevenson ultra competitive. The big guys are just, they're throwing their bodies on top of each other every single day. So those are the 2 words that came out last night. So I'll quote the movie series and use that as a representation of the way we play.
Frank, you and Dave know each other very well, obviously, and they may have gone through as big of a headache as you guys did last year. I think they missed 28 of their 32 preseason practice days last year, and he coached remotely for a while. Did you guys ever compare notes on what you were going through there?
We spoke. We spoke. It's as coaches, we don't, whether it's Dave or Anthony Grant or David Kiefer, Matt Fager, Brad Underwood, Huggs, guys that I'm really close with, Andy Kennedy, we really don't speak a lot during the season because we're all tied up with our own world. Usually when we speak, we're trying to talk the other guy off the ledge kind of deal. But last year we were all bored. We all of us that got shut down, we were trying to figure out, like, what do we do? Like, just to share ideas, because we had no idea what we were dealing with or how to manage this. But Dave, his team went through it last year. And I know firsthand because I was trying to be supportive as a parent, not just a friend. And I know the struggles my son went through with all the shutdowns, and which was troubling for me because I was trying to manage a team and be a parent for somebody who was going through similar things my team was going through. So it was complicated. But I felt awful for their program because the year before, if you go back and see what they were doing towards the end of the season, they were really, really close to starting to turn that corner. And all that work that they had put into to build was starting to show up on how they played and with winning. And then, Dave went through, think about this, when he got Tulane, gets an opportunity, boom, hurricane hit. Now Tulane gets displaced, and now he's got to try and run a program practicing in a different state, let alone a different location, and had nowhere to live. And he's trying to coach ball while living out of a hotel somewhere with his players. And, now he gets to upstate, and now he had Tulane, they won 20 games under his watch. That's how close he got that. And now he's got upstate, get ready to turn, and COVID hit. I feel awful for the experiences that he's had as a head coach. But he's phenomenal, an incredible human being. I respected him tremendously as a coach and as a man from my high school days. And I tried, it's not a secret, I tried really hard to hire him here. He's a native South Carolinian. I thought he'd been an incredible hire at our school. And after coaching my son, I'm indebted to that man for whatever he needs for the rest of his life. He's a much better man than I thought originally, and what he did for my son as a human being, I can't ever repay him for that.
You mentioned talking to the fraternities last night, and at the exhibition, it seemed like a really lively atmosphere. James Reese was talking about how much it meant to him, and Eric Stevenson was just talking about wanting to pack the quad just like a football game. Just kind of curious, what's your sense of the energy right now in and around the program with your players, talking to the fraternities around campus? What's your sense of it, and is it where you'd like it to be, or what's kind of been your approach with that?
I thought that was great. Let me tell you, after the past year, hearing anything inside the CLA other than my voice was kind of fun. I thought there was really good energy by both the fans of both schools. Was it 11, 12,000 people? No, but the people that were there had tremendous energy, and that's what you look for when you go out and compete. Even when you grew up playing at the park, there wasn't 2,000 people watching you play, but if there was 10 guys on the court and 10 guys off the court, all 20 people had tremendous energy. And so you're always looking for that energy as a competitor. And, Michael, I'm not going to bore you with old stories, but I've shared with the fraternities. One of the reasons I'm going around talking to fraternities because I've done all that. This is the second time around for me with all these fraternities. It's just to say thank you, because everyone asked me what you learned last year. I learned how lucky we are that I coach at a place where being top 20 in attendance should never be taken for granted. And that's what we created. That's what we were for that 6-year period I keep talking about. For 5 of those 6 years, we were top 20 in attendance. It may be 4 of the 6 years we were top 20. Then the 5th year, we're right outside of it. But that's a lot of people. And I just needed to go tell those fraternities, and how much I missed them and how much I appreciated their support over the years, and just to let them know, like, if you give our team a chance, man, you're going to really, really enjoy watching these guys play. And I've been to 3 fraternities. I'm going to 2 more tonight. I think a sorority maybe. I'm not sure where I'm going tonight. It's all part of it, man. That's again, people say, Frank, what'd you learn last year? Well, number one, I learned that every decision I made didn't work. That's number one. Number two, there's a whole lot of things that you get consumed with the job sometimes and you don't realize how lucky you are with some things. And I've always been a big believer in enjoy and appreciate what you have, not what you don't have. We got some great fans here. And just going around thanking them for the environment that we created that made us a winning program, I just thought it's the right thing to do.
Going off of that, how do you balance letting go of the past and everything that you guys went through last year, but also using that as fuel going into tomorrow night and trying to get off to a hot start for this season?
Yeah, that's who I am. It's how I live life. I don't, you know, I don't hang on to the past. I just don't. I learn from it. When I'm in a moment of confusion, I'll kind of look in the rearview mirror real quick and to reflect on the lessons that I've been taught, whether it be basketball, life, or whatever, and to appreciate where I'm at. But I don't dwell on it. I told the frat last night, I said, we went to the Final Four and we were this close to playing for all the marbles. I didn't show up the next year, and just because we had returning players, run around and chest bump them and act like we've arrived, we don't have to work as hard. No, I went back to doing things the way I always do them. And if you ask any player that goes through the journey with me during the year, I don't show up mad after a loss and happy after wins. I show up the next day ready to work and not in any way, shape, or form tying in yesterday to today. I'm always trying to build and get better. That's all I focus on. And the only day that I kind of go into a rut is the day the season ends, and I go home and I realize I don't get to run a ball practice for a while. And that's it's kind of the way I am. You ask me where I got that from. That's my family. That's my high school coach. That's where those behaviors obviously were created with me.
What are your expectations for the early signing period?
Is that a Garnet shirt you have right there?
It's red.
Oh, okay. Oh, God, Phil, you're getting killed over here. I'm really excited. It's obviously I'll speak about this next Monday, clearly. But I expect to have a couple, definitely 2, maybe 3, that I'll expound on next Monday. But I'm really happy with the people that are going to be jumping on board.
Colin, and then back to Derek.
Frank, how's the overall health of the team, specifically Jermaine?
Jermaine's great. He wanted to practice leading into Benedict game, and I wouldn't let him. I don't mess with hamstrings. You roll an ankle and you tell me you can't play, I'm not. Back in the day, I'd roll my eyes and say something smart, but can't do that these days. So I turn around, I'll roll my eyes when no one's looking. But with hamstrings, I'm over the top because those things don't go away. And his was minor. The severity of a hamstring is always the higher up on the muscle, the worse it is, the closer to your butt. His was not up there. It was kind of mid-belly, the way it's called. So he probably could have gone a couple days ago. I just wouldn't let him do it. He went to do the whole practice yesterday, and he was good. You know, Mark, our trainer, and Scott, when guys are dealing with some kind of injury, they do an unbelievable job on maintaining their stamina. Now, it's a little different doing work on the side than being on the court chasing Eric Stevenson off screens or trying to keep up with James Reese running the court. But he'll be fine. Yeah. Everyone's healthy. It's you know, the only 2. We had a I don't want to call it a flu, but it wasn't a flu bug. It was like a strep throat bug. So since 10 days ago, we've had 3 different guys pop with strep. So that means that they've all missed, with strep, it's just while the fever's in place, they can't practice. So we've had 3 different guys miss a couple practices with strep, but let's hope that's behind us now. I got strep too. It's a lot of yelling. I'm not used to this yelling. I didn't yell last year. I didn't talk last year.
Frank, I'm trying to follow that up. You obviously play, I think, 3 games in 6 days, Tuesday, then Friday, Sunday. How do you balance that in terms of keeping guys fresh but preparing, and how much of a challenge is that for you, especially early in the season and without a guy like Keyshawn out there?
Yeah, that's going to be a little hit and miss for me early in the year because I got to learn this team. My gut right now is that we've been really, really competitive and practiced really hard. Is that I got to manage today. We've gone real hard on Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday we went longer than yesterday. But my gut right now, because this team's been pretty good with the effort and the commitment to compete and the attention to detail, is that I've got to manage today and then the 2 days, what would it be, Wednesday, Thursday, a certain way, and I'm going to manage it that way, and I'll find out how it works. But I haven't had to push and prod to get these guys to go. So it's my initial brain cells are telling me that to manage it a certain way, and that's what I'm going to try and do. Will it work? I don't have the answer for you, Colin, because I haven't been through it with these guys. But their preparation has allowed me to create an opinion on how to manage it. I'll have a better feel December on how to handle those things.
Since Colin brought up the rest of the week, the Asheville Championship, that's a new spot for you guys. Have you, what are your thoughts on it, and what do you know about the venue or anything else that, since it is a new experience? Yeah,
I'm excited. It's Dave Odom, obviously everyone here locally remembers Coach Odom, and he's last year when the whole Maui COVID situation kind of fell apart, Asheville said, bring it here, and they took it there, and the community was unbelievably supportive. Asheville's, don't ask me why, I don't know a lot about Asheville, but they really, really like their college basketball there. They support it, and so the opinion was the same people who run the Maui, let's create this one. And when Coach Odom called me, my initial conversation with him was like, it's a first-time tournament. I don't know if this is what I want to be a part of. But then I hung up and I started thinking. And at the time, we had no vaccines. I had no idea what the landscape. So I was like, I don't feel like getting on an airplane. I don't want to expose our players to uncertainty. It's up in the mountains. Most of our guys that are city guys, they've never been in the mountains. So it'd be a different experience, a different kind of community than any of our guys have ever lived in. And it's a bus trip. I said, you know what? It allows our fans to want to come watch us to travel. And it allows my family and our coaches' families and just to get in a car and go and not be worried about travel. And last year when we traveled last year, it was lonely, man. It was the players, the coaches on a plane, no one else at the hotel, and then you walked in the gyms and there was no one there. It was lonely. Being on the road was not fun last year. So that's what went into my mind, and I'm glad I made that decision. I'm really excited. Princeton's really good. They basically returned their whole team, and they were locked up all of last year. They haven't played. So it's the same team they had 2 years ago, and they can't wait to play. And then Western Kentucky's really good. I mean, everyone that follows the SEC, Stansbury's always going to have really good players, and he does an incredible job with them. And then, Minnesota's going through new coach. It's funny, his assistant and I are really good friends, Dave Thorson, and he used to play for Dave in high school. And so, Ben and You know, I've known him since he's a high school kid, and now I'm going to coach against him. I guess that's starting to make me officially the old guy, which all I got to do is look in the mirror, and I can tell you that's the case. But that's it's going to be fun. It's going to be a real. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Frank, you kind of joked around about with the strep throat and having to yell a little bit more. What does just being able to get back on the practice court mean to you, and how have you been able to attack that? I know obviously in the past it's well documented with the health issues you went through before. Have you kind of had to ease into things, or is Frank Martin being Frank Martin already?
Nah, man, I am who I am. I've been that way for 36 or 37 years on the sideline. And as an assistant coach, when I was the third assistant, it wasn't my place to be the hooting and hollering and on the sideline. But if you came to practice, I was out there teaching, and my passion, people mistake. Think about this, and I'm going to take you down a quick rabbit hole here. You know how many people are dying to say, and I'm telling you this because I know who you enjoy rooting for in football, to say that Bill Belichick and his ways, his discipline and his attention to detail, that's wrong. And the only reason that worked was because of Brady. Brady could have played for any of these new, young, innovative, great minds, and instead he went and picked another crusty old you-know-what that's a hardcore disciplinarian that takes no BS from anybody, and Bruce Arians. Think about that. Well, Belichick's still winning, and Brady continued to win, but when he gets to pick who to play for, he picked another crusty you-know-what. Because those guys are real. There's no phoniness to who they are. And if you ask, I think I appreciate the question. I think that's a better question for you to ask the players that have been around me. I'm going to do my job the way I've always done it. I'm going to be who I am. I couldn't do it last year. I tried. My health, there were other intangibles in the way that just made it really difficult for me. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to be frank. I'm going to be, no pun intended, but I'm going to be who I worked really hard at being my whole life, which is genuine, honest, hard driving, and helpful to young people. We've created this whole mindset that people that are loud are negative. And I say this all the time, Mike. Some of the worst things anyone has ever said to me, they've said it nice and low. It's the biggest fallacy that exists, is that hard-driving people are bad. On the contrary, young people don't know how difficult life is. They need someone to be hard-driving to help them understand how to deal with adversity's coming. If we don't help young people understand that they have to confront adversity and get through adversity, they're not going to succeed. I don't care how talented they are. I don't care who they know. They're going to fail. And our greatest job as people that lead young people is to make them understand that we're there for them when adversity hits, but they have to deal with it. And there's nothing easy or fun about dealing with adversity. And so that's the hardest thing. That's what's gotten really hard in our profession right now, is what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say towing the line. Is just making young people understand you can't run away from a difficult day. You got to buckle up and go. And then let them know, like, I'm not going to let you fall, man. Don't mean we're going to win today, but I'm not going to let you fall, and I'm not going to let you fail. And that gives them the courage to go deal with that adverse moment. And then, when you deal with adversity and you get to the other side, that's how you gain confidence. That's how you gain, you hear about being mentally strong. That's where you gain that mental strength. It's not from avoiding adversity, it's learning to deal with adversity. And that's what's become the biggest challenge in coaching in today's day and age. I don't know if I answered your question. I just...
Sounded good.
Yeah, I didn't answer, Phil. Yeah, I'm going to be me. I'm going to stomp, holler, hoot, hug, kiss, do the stuff I've done for 36 or 37 years.
Interested to see the Twitter comments if you kiss a player in the middle of a timeout. But
I kissed my radio guy one time.
Really?
My television guy,
Okay.
walking off the court at K-State. We need no repeats. Have you ever seen that one? Stan Weber. I got mad at him the previous game. He asked me some question, like, the other team went like on a 16-0 run or something, and he asked me some question, like we gave up 50% from the field, and he asked me about some turnover. And I said, Stan, how about guarding somebody? You ever hear of defense, Stan? And he was a big social media guy, so he put that post of me saying that to him on social media, and we got along. It's not like he did it in spiteful. He's just trying to create interest. So I had some people say, hey, man, did you make Stan mad? I'm like, stop. So the next game, we played really well, and when I was walking off the court to do my halftime interview with Stan, I don't even know what he asked. I just grabbed and kissed him. I said, Stan, I got the Christmas spirit in me. I kissed him and then walked away. So it's a little bit of all the above.
Going back to the Asheville thing, obviously Princeton, your focus is on USC Upstate, but Princeton didn't play last year. How tough does that make a scout for that? And is that something that you guys have been planning for the last couple of weeks in terms of game planning for them?
Yeah, I'm going to start studying them tonight. The good thing is that same coach, basically same players. Bad thing is early in the year, there's the element of surprise, whatever adjustments they make, whatever, it's like somebody who watches film on us last year, they're going to watch film this year, and whatever defensive concepts you see last year, you're not going to see a whole lot of this year. Our team, well, I did some things offensively for last year's talent. We're doing some things offensively now for this year's talent. So there's going to be an element of surprise. We just, early in the year, you have to pay attention to what you do know on the opponent and then be very clear on what you're trying to do. And then here's the second part. You hear all the time, which by the way, you hear about these halftime adjustments. Like, really? Like, what are they? I'm always curious what halftime adjustments, what's that revolutionary halftime speech that if you're coaching football and it's halftime and you've run the ball 3 times for 12 yards and you've passed it 20 times and only completed 7, yeah, the adjustment's real simple. Run the damn ball, In basketball, you shoot 23s and you're a team that's known for points in the paint. The adjustment's real simple. And that guy shoots a 3 before the ball touches in the paint, you're going home walking. It's not a difficult adjustment. But in-game adjustments during a timeout based on something that the other team's running that we had not seen on film, a player that just 2 years ago couldn't make a shot, and now he's become a real good shooter. That happens. So you have to make some in-game adjustments, and that's the assistants got to earn their money there. That's where they're real good, because I go into certain games and I told whoever the scout guy is, hey, I'm really paying attention to us tonight. I need you to pay attention to what they're doing. Other times I'm like, just make sure we're running our stuff. I'm going to pay attention to the other team. And that's where your assistants have to be really good.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.